Welcome to a Tiger TV exclusive interview. I'm sports director Brie, joined alongside a man who really needs no introduction, former head baseball coach Paul Mainieri. Coach, how are you today?
Good to see you, Brie.
Good to see you. So, has it finally hit you yet that you're retired?
Didn't hit me until you just called me the former head coach. You know, it's starting to hit me a little bit, I have to be honest with you, but I think it'll really hit me when they name my successor and that person is here and I get to sit down with that person and go over the roster and future schedules and really basically pass the torch. And then I get to go out of town and take a little vacation and kind of decompress and then come back and realize that there's a new person in charge. It hit me a little bit the other day when we were taking everything down out of my office. It's a little bit traumatic, a little emotional right now. But it's been a wonderful time, 39 years overall, 15 here at LSU. It's sinking in.
Yeah. So like you said, 39 years of coaching, that's almost double, that is double my age. 15 years of those at LSU, 5 trips to the College World Series, a national championship. Do you feel accomplished? Do you feel fulfilled, like you did everything you could here?
Actually, 6 years to the College World Series, including one trip with Notre Dame. So, you know, when I was a young boy, Brie, I was 14 years old. I grew up the son of a college coach, and I remember the day I actually went in and talked to my dad, and I told him, you know, I know what I want to do with the rest of my life. If I can't be a Major League Baseball player, I want to be a college baseball coach. How many people get to fulfill their life dream, you know, as a child? And I got to do it for 39 years. It's been amazing. I feel like the luckiest guy in the world. I used to lay in bed at night and look up to the sky and say, dear God, if you could ever let me take a team to the College World Series, I'll never ask for anything else. And I got to take 6 teams. We got to win a national championship. You know, when you look at accomplishments, you know, by the numbers with winning games and championships and trips to Omaha and so forth, I could never have even dreamed to have had the success that we've had. So that's one side of it. But really what I went into coaching for was to work with young people and to impact young people's lives. In the aftermath of my announcement of my retirement, to receive the text messages and emails and phone calls from former players especially, where they've indicated, you know, how I have impacted their lives, that has really been the most rewarding thing to me, because it validated what I went into coaching for, and that to me demonstrated that maybe we had a successful career if that's the way that I've been perceived by the players. So that's really what the most important thing for me has been. And I feel pretty fulfilled in what I've done.
Awesome. So this season could kind of be described as a roller coaster. You know, you had numerous injuries from your starters, Jaden Hill and Giovanni DiGiacomo. You had some lineup changes. You started 1-8 in conference play, which is not very heard of for LSU baseball. But then you won 4 straight elimination games in Eugene for the regionals. You qualified for supers whenever some people didn't even think we were going to make the NCAA tournament. So what about this team made them so special, and how did you guys look at the bright side after facing so much adversity?
Well, I've always said this, Brie, that every year is going to have its ebbs and flows, you know, its peaks and valleys. And a coach really earns his salary, so to speak, when you have to deal with the lows of a season. Every season, you're going to come to that proverbial fork in the road, because there's going to be challenges. You're going to have a bad game, you're going to have a bad weekend series, and there's the fork in the road where, you know, a team has to choose. Are they going to choose the route that the losers take, where they blame others, they make excuses, they lose their enthusiasm and their energy and their confidence, or do they take the route the winners take? The route the winners take is the hard route. You know, they have to keep fighting, they have to keep believing, they have to keep their chins up and keep their energy and their enthusiasm, even though everybody around them is telling them how bad they are and so forth. And I think the coach's job is to keep those players to think in a positive way. it's not easy because you're talking about a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds whose emotions can fluctuate. And what I've learned through 39 years of coaching is that that's when the coach has to really be a coach. It's easy to coach when everything's going well. It's what I call being a front runner. When everything's going well, it's easy to be a great guy. It's easy to be a backslapper. But when everything seems to be unraveling, that's when you really have to show the kids that you believe in them, and you got to keep them going. And so that's what I'm most proud about as a coach, is to be able to keep it together. And this year has not been, you say it's been unlike most years, but it's really not been. You know, most seasons, all seasons really, you're going to find that moment where you have to try to keep it together, and we've done that throughout our career, and I think that's what I'm most proud about. And this team this year really is just a typical team. You know, everybody counted us out, but they hung in there. They fought to the bitter end. We had to go to Texas A&M and win there in the last weekend of the season. We did that. We go to Eugene, Oregon. We beat the opening game. We win 4 straight elimination games to win the regional and go to the super regional. We just ran out of gas at the end, but it was still, I think, a season where we laid the groundwork now for my successor to come in, and I think that they have a foundation built here where I think they can be a championship ball club in the next couple of years. Dylan Cruz was a National Freshman of the Year. Trey Morgan was a Freshman All-American. Will Helmers was a Freshman All-American. Guys like Javen Coleman and Ty Floyd and Garrett Edwards and many of the other players, Jordan Thompson, Cade Doty, etc., have shown that they can be really outstanding SEC players. So I think there's a really good foundation set, and I'm going to be the biggest fan watching them over the next several years.
You pretty much answered my next question. I was going to say, all things considered, this team is very young. You have a lot of true freshmen and even sophomores that last year they didn't get to play to that SEC caliber because of the pandemic. So I was going to ask, like, what potential do you see in them going forward? And you also recruited a lot of the incoming freshmen for next year. So all that considered, where do you see them going forward in the future?
Well, we have a highly ranked recruiting class coming in. Nolan Kane, our recruiting coordinator, did a tremendous job again. They haven't ranked the class yet because we don't know which of the players will lose to the Major League Draft. But in the early prognostications, it's the second-ranked class in the country, you know, without losing any players to the draft. So I think we've got some really good players coming in. I think there's a really good foundation. If Gavin Dugas does not sign professionally, there's a chance you could have the entire starting lineup back. We do lose the entire starting rotation, most probably. But like I mentioned, Javen Coleman and Garrett Edwards and Ty Floyd and Will Helmers and some of the other pitchers, I think have shown that they have made great improvement throughout the year and are ready to help. There's now what they call the transfer portal, where a lot of pitchers or a lot of players are going in. They can go in and get a few key transfers to fill some necessary voids that every team might have. And I think the team is going to be very capable of being ultra competitive right away. So I think it's an attractive job to an outstanding coach. I think we've left them a chance to be very successful very quickly. And I think we're going to get a really great coach. You know, I'm going to be a little bit jealous that I'm not going to be coaching the team, but I just didn't have any gas left in the tank, Brie. After 39 years and 15 years here at LSU, I thought long and hard about this decision, and I really do believe I made the right decision. I'm going to miss it terribly, but I just don't feel like I had the energy left to do the little things that are necessary to bring them into being a championship club. But I think they'll go out and hire a coach that's maybe a little more youthful than me, that has a little bit more energy, that's got great ability, and I think that person can sprinkle the magic dust on it and make a championship club, and I'll feel very proud of that.
That's awesome. So I know you've been mentored by some of the best. You say you mentioned your father, who you praised a lot, and also another LSU legend, Skip Bertman. You've been mentored by him. He hired you here. So let's look at it from another perspective. Have you ever coached a player or a team that's truly made you keep going all these years and pushed you to be a better coach?
Have I coached a team that's pushed me to be a better coach?
Like any specific player or team that's like, this is why I do what I do. Have you ever?
Every team has been that way. You know, obviously some teams have had have been more talented than some other teams. You know, the 3 years that Alex Bregman was here, 2013, 14, and 15, it breaks my heart that we didn't win a national championship when he was here, because we had very good teams, very talented teams. His freshman year in 2013, we went to Omaha with a 57-9 record. Alex and I talked about it before we went to Omaha, that if we went there and we swept through the World Series, won 5 straight games and won the national championship, we would have finished with a 62-9 record. We would have probably gone down in history as the greatest team in the history of college baseball. But we lose a 2-1 game to UCLA. We lose a 5-3 game to North Carolina, and we don't even win a game in Omaha. And it shows you just how fragile and how you can't take anything for granted in this sport. It's so difficult to win. The next year, his sophomore year, we were playing better than any team in the country at the end of the year. We were on a 10-game winning streak. Houston had to beat us twice in the regional tournament. We were winning 4-0 in the 8th inning of the championship game, and everything that could go wrong went wrong in one bad inning in the 8th inning, and they tied the game. We lose in extra innings, and then the next night we played our worst game of the year and end up losing. And I think that team could have won the national championship. His junior year in 2015, we were beating TCU, and Jared Poche was pitching great, and then things just unraveled for us. We could have won the national championship that year. So we've had some remarkable teams, and every year has had specific challenges. Alex Bregman was one of the greatest players I've ever coached, and Alex used to always say to me, "How come you always challenge other players, but you never challenge me?" I said, "Well, Alex, you're such a great player. What do I need to challenge?" He says, "I like it when you yell at me. It makes me focus more." So I said, "Okay, I'll find something to get mad at you about so I can yell at you." So Alex was great about things like that. He was always pushing himself to be better and better and better. And a lot of the players that I've had here at LSU were that way. When you think of Alex Lang and Aaron Nola, Kevin Gosman, DJ LeMahieu, not even just the guys that made it to the major leagues, but Chris Cotton and Mark Laird, guys that came to LSU as unheralded players that ended up having great careers while they were here. Antoine Duplantis, unheralded player, ended up leaving with the most hits ever. Mikey Matuk. I mean, I'm the most blessed guy in the world, Brie. I've been able to coach so many wonderful young men that made me a better coach, that enriched my life as a person and as a professional, as a coach, to have had the opportunity to coach these young men.
That's awesome, Coach. So, just now I'm thinking about it, College World Series in Omaha is going on right now, and I know we can't be there, but do you have any predictions about who's going to take it all?
Well, I can tell you who I'm pulling for. I'm pulling for Virginia because their coach, Brian O'Connor, is one of my proteges. He was my pitching coach at the University of Notre Dame for 9 years. I hired him when he was 23 years old to be my #1 assistant. I saw something special in him as a young man, and he was a terrific pitching coach. He left me at the age of 32 to become the head coach at Virginia. So he's now in like his 19th year there. He won the national championship in 2015, and they just beat Tennessee, which I was happy to see. Take that, Tennessee. Anyway, I'm pulling for Brian to win his second national championship. He's a tremendous coach and a tremendous person. I took him with me when I managed the USA collegiate national team in the summer of 2018. We had a little reunion, and he was the pitching coach for our team. So I think they have a chance. You know, it's going to be tough. You know, obviously Vanderbilt's got a great team, and Mississippi State's got a great team. But with me having a former coach in the tournament, I'm going to have to step outside of the SEC and pull for my friend.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So last question before I let you go. What's next for you? How do you plan to enjoy your retirement?
Well, I have a bucket list. You know, I mentioned at the press conference where we announced my retirement that I want to go to the Kentucky Derby. I want to go to the Masters. I want to go to the Indianapolis 500. Those 3 things jump out to me because they all happen in the springtime, which I've never been able to do. But even in the fall, you know, because of fall practice and recruiting, I've never really been able to do that, but I'm a huge college football fan, and I would like to go to see different venues that I never have been able to go to. Of course, I love LSU football, number one, and I think I'll be at every LSU football game, because I'm sure that Scott Woodward will have me working and trying to help raise some money and talking to donors and doing things like that. And I'll be pulling for Ed Orgeron and the Tigers. But I also worked 12 years at Notre Dame, and my son works up there at the University of Notre Dame as an academic advisor, and I miss my grandson and my son and my daughter-in-law, so I'm going to try to get up there and see a couple football games. Excuse me. But one of the things I really want to do, Brie, is I want to go out and visit my former players from all the schools that I coached. I coached at 4 different schools, but I want to go spend time with them and their families, because as I mentioned to you earlier in the interview, I went into coaching to try to impact young people's lives and prepare them for life after college. So as they go out and they're successful in their lives and they're raising their own families, you know, that's the fruits of my labor. And I don't want them to come to my funeral. I won't be able to enjoy them then. I want to enjoy them and see what they've become as fathers, as husbands, and what they're doing professionally. And so I really plan on just jumping in a car and just taking drives and go visiting different players around the country and
America tour.
Take an America tour and see places I haven't been able to see, and visit those players. I also want to work on my golf game. I want to take it from being terrible to mediocre. I used to, when I was a young man, I used to be able to break 90, and that would be my goal, is to get back to being able to break 90 again on a golf course. I love golf, but I just haven't been able to play much over the last 20 or 25 years.
Well, it sounds like you will not be bored after retiring.
Well, I'm gonna stay in Baton Rouge. I love Baton Rouge. This is my home. I have 2 children here, and I have a daughter in New Orleans as well. So 3 of my 4 grandchildren are in Louisiana. It's amazing, you know, when I left Notre Dame to come to LSU, people may not believe this, but it was a really difficult decision at that time, because I loved where I was and I had all my children near me. But I made the decision because I didn't want to have any regrets in my life, and I knew that LSU was a magical place. I knew that I needed to test myself as a coach, and I'm so happy that I did it. It was the greatest thing I ever did for myself personally, was come here to see if we could get it done, and we won 1 national championship, and we won several other types of championships and got to Omaha 5 times, and I feel fulfilled now, you know, and I'm glad I did it. But I'm glad I did it for other reasons too. All 4 of my children ended up meeting their spouses here in Louisiana, and my wife and I, our families, our lives have become enriched by the friends that we've made here, and you know, we just built a home here, and we're going to live the rest of our lives here, and we just love Louisiana, and you know, I've cried a lot of tears over the last 3 weeks, not tears of sadness, but tears of happiness and gratefulness for the gifts that have been bestowed upon me. And there's not going to be days, I promise there's going to be days where I'm going to miss what I've done, and maybe even a day or 2 where I regret the decision that I made. But I know I did the right thing, and I'm leaving the game, and I'm leaving the profession feeling very fulfilled and proud of what we've done. And I'm going to be around, and I'm going to root for LSU as hard as anybody.
Well, Coach, growing up as a Tiger fan and watching baseball my entire life, and working as a reporter, doing multiple press conferences with you, it's been an honor to get to sit down and talk to you one-on-one.
Thank you,
I
Brie.
really appreciate you taking the time out of your retirement to come talk with us. But thank you so much for all your time.
Brie. Thank you.
Thank you all for watching this exclusive interview with head coach Paul Mainieri, and have a good night.
Go Tigers.